For those who stop by, tune in, or watch the show later. So today, this week, I'm gonna do my kind of usual thing, just recap on everything going on with Pokemart and just everything going on in the Pokemon market. And then this week, I'm gonna do a little bit different. Um, a lot of people always ask me questions all the time in regards to just what it's like owning a small business, how to start, and just a bunch of other kind of things in regards to the Pokemon world and what's going on. And so that's kind of what I want to start doing, is taking that approach and giving my personal opinion. So before I get into that, as far as it goes with updates, my distributor told me my premium collections are going to be shipped out to me as of yesterday, so I should be expecting them either Saturday or sometime early next week. For those people who I got first waves for, you should be expecting your Pokemon for Shining Fates have already arrived. What's up, Glugs? How's it going, brother? Yeah, no, I thought this would just be a good topic to discuss because I've had so many people just ask me about it. And so as far as it goes with Shining Fates, that's kind of the main update. I'm not 100% certain if I'm going to be getting the mini tins. I'll definitely keep people updated as far as it goes. On the bright side, I did get premium binders. So I will be possibly adding that to the website. I know I want to do something with that when it comes to the mystery boxes that I've briefly discussed. But yeah, as far as it goes, it's kind of the news with the website. I'm very excited with Battle Styles coming up within the next couple of weeks. And I'll just keep everyone updated on that. Outside of that, once again, kind of a really slow week as far as it goes with Pokemon news, so not really much to discuss there. So I'll just jump right into the topic. So I've had a lot of people kind of ask me the question of, I want to start my own business. How do I start my own business? What did you do to start your own business? So there's a couple of things you want to take into consideration. First off, one, is this something that you want to do long term? Or is this something that you want to do very short term, right? Two, another thing to consider is how much do you have? What are you starting with? And then three, where do you live? The reason why these factors play such a huge role is because if you're looking to sell Pokemon product and have a distributor, you're going to want to have high sales volume. And so for that reason, going into it, there's going to be an expectation of you consistently are keeping a certain amount of sales volume in which you're buying from them. And as you increase over time, then your sales volume increases over time. Another reason, another question that I had asked is, like I said before, with what state do you live in? That plays a factor because that's going to tell you what requirements you're going to need. I live in the state of Oregon. I don't need a tax license in order to sell because we don't have sales tax. But if you live in the state of California or the state of Texas or the state of Florida or most other states that have income tax, you're going to have to get a tax license as well as a business license from the Secretary of State website. Just getting it licensed for the state in which you live in. And then lastly, like I said before, how much you start with. When I say how much you start with, I guess in the grand scheme of things, the reason why I would say that part's important, it has less to do with having enough inventory for product, because, if you only have so much product, it's going to be, it might take you longer to sell it because you don't have variety. Obviously, things are a lot more popular nowadays with Pokemon, so you could turn it over really quickly. But when it comes to starting your website, it costs money and it takes time. I built the website myself, and so it took a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of hours. But even through building it myself, I had to pay web domain fees. I had to pay a website building fee. So like, I built it through Wix. I used domain with GoDaddy. I was able to also pay money as well when I first started off for advertising with Google Ads. And it's one of these things where it's like, you're gonna have to have some startup money. And now, is there a number that I recommend? I can't give you an exact amount, but I can tell you that roughly on startup expenses, it probably cost around $500 to $1,000 ish. So, but that's purely just off of startup expenses because I spent money on obviously Streamlabs for trying to increase the streaming aspect, which obviously I've made improvements on. I spent money on making sure I had that membership with Wix, which costs like $150. GoDaddy, it's like $6 a month on top of a Google campaign email account, which allows me to contact customers or have customers reach out to me. So that's an additional $144 a year. So it's like one of these things where it's like it all adds up to around 500 to 1,000 depending upon what you're doing, how much you're doing. And then Google Ads too. I did only $5 and then eventually transitioned to $10 when I had more product, but I don't have as much product, so I went back down to 5. And so it's like these are all things you want to kind of keep into an account. So those are the 3 main factors I would say, kind of looking at, you know, how you want to start your business. You don't need a big old fancy computer. You don't have to have a bunch of high tech when it comes to it. I personally was able to buy a nice computer at the start because of all the money I was getting off of COVID's unemployment. Not to mention the fact of the matter, I was able to use it as a tax write-off come this tax season. So that's one thing that's actually very nice about owning a small business, and you do get a lot of benefits. Not to mention the fact of the matter, if you really do try to generate revenue through your business, and it actually is a legitimate business, if you start off going net negative, basically, you know, your business startup expenses cost less than your actual net profit for the year, so you don't make money, then you're able to still continuously withdraw from unemployment. So it's kind of one of these things within the tax code, and it's very, very important to kind of look at because for me personally, with everything going on with COVID, and I think this is more relevant due to the kind of conditions we're in right now in the COVID market, but I hired a CPA who basically has kind of sat me down and said, look, you can keep withdrawing $600 to $900 a week in COVID, and on top of that, make money off your business, as long as at the end of the year, you're able to have less money at the end when it comes to your startup cost or expenses. So it's one of these things where just knowing, you know, knowing that side of the business, which it's very interesting, and I think hiring professionals like that long term will save you so much time and money, because CPAs aren't cheap. Like a good CPA will cost you about $1,000 to $1,500 depending upon what state you live in and like the current going rate and how competitive the market is. But at the end of the day, they're going to save you thousands of dollars in taxes, if not more, tens of thousands, depending upon how much money you're generating. So it's one of these things where it's very important to be able to hire a CPA long term. But this is something I'm getting into that I'm saying long term, like this is important. You want to get into that. I think one of the things that I would recommend for people actually to do, if you've ever heard of the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, I think it's a really good book that kind of talks about the just in-depthness of just the decisions in which people that are successfully are financially successful when it comes to the decisions they make as entrepreneurs. And that's kind of one of the things for me where, you know, everyone wants to be rich, but no one knows how to do it, or no one wants to put in the work, or no one has any sort of information when it comes to actual financial education and the decisions they're making. And so that's one of those things where I highly recommend that book if people haven't read it, to kind of look into just the thought process of being an entrepreneur and what it does mean to be financially wealthy and smart with your decisions. So now then the next question is it a good time to start right now? So here's my thing about it. I never want to discourage people, and long term, I do think that the market will die down and there will be opportunities. So I don't want what I'm going to say to come off as a negative thing, because as a Pokemon fan myself, I could care less if I have competition. Like, I have Game Nerds, I have Safari Zone, Walmart, Target, if you really want to consider them competitors. I really don't. But they do sell Pokemon, so I technically have to, but when I'm talking about online retail predominantly. So it's one of these things where I care less. As a Pokemon fan, I want people to have access to the cheapest product. If that's on my site, great. If it's not on my site, great. at the end of the day, that's the society we will live in. We want a fair and competitive market. And so for that reason, if there are people that are able to come out with innovative ideas and find ways to make product more affordable for people, then I think that's awesome and that's healthy for the Pokemon market. As far as it goes right now, the biggest problem, and I've stressed this so many times, we are in a fabricated market of fabricated supply and fabricated demand. What I mean by that is it's general economic theory. In a market, you have supply side and you have demand side. The supply side is the amount of product that is circulating out right now of Pokemon. The demand side is the amount of people that are trying to gain access to the Pokemon product or trying to buy it. What happens typically in a general market, if there is a, let's say, kind of give you an example. Let's say that, there's a million apples in the world, right? And let's say that because there's a million apples, they're valued at $1, right? Well, let's say people keep buying those apples continuously and they eat those apples. Let's say now there's only 100. If there is a demand for apples because people love apples and they think they're delicious, since there's going to be less circulating out there, naturally the value of apples will go up. Now, obviously, this also has to be a correlating factor into demand, because if, hypothetically speaking, there's a million apples, and let's say that at the very beginning, a million people wanted those apples, and that's where it's valued at $1. But let's say it's now 10 million people want those apples, and there's only a million. That means 1 in 10 people is going to get them. And so of each 10 people, or let's say people want multiple, then you're going to start to see an increase of the value of the apple because the demand is drastically increasing as more and more people want to get into apples. So hey, what's up, Victor? How's it going, brother? So basically, this kind of theory of just basically supply side economics is really the biggest issue because it's so fabricated. It's one of these things where when you have a lack of printing, you have issues with transportation and regulations having to do with COVID. And on top of that, you have people getting stimulus checks that are, in my state, like Oregon, $600 a week, and you don't even have to work. It literally is one of these things where it's like, people have money to spend. People aren't taking those vacations that they would usually take to go, hang out and socialize with their family and friends. Instead, they're staying at home and they're just finding things to do, whether it be spending money on video games, spending money on collectibles and old hobbies that they've gotten into. So it's one of these things where it's like when people have stayed at home, they've started to get into their hobbies. Now, do I think a large portion of these people will stay in the market? Yeah, I think that long term they will stay in the market. But as things start to go back to normal, not everyone's going to have the same buying power that they had before with these COVID checks, not to mention the fact of the matter, you're going to see the supply increase as COVID regulations start to go away. There's already been rumors and reports that the Pokemon Company is looking at getting more printing done in other countries and other states. I mean, predominantly they do it in North Carolina if we're looking at America, is what I've been told. And so it's one of these things where it's like, it's something that, long term, I do think that things will start to normalize. With that being said, that's why I think it's really hard to get into the market right now. I got lucky and I got in at the right time. At the start of COVID, I being myself, being an investor myself, I've always been one to kind of look at markets and kind of say, where's an opportunity to make money? I've always been into Pokemon. Even when I died out of the competitive battling, I still was a fan of the Pokemon games. My most recent game prior to the new Sword and Shield, before COVID, I had Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire, and I completely finished the shiny decks and was just shiny hunting. And every so often I would go to Walmart and just buy it. It looks like we're good now. Can everyone hear me, hopefully? That's kind of weird. Well, let me check and see. Let me know if you can hear me and if everything's working fine again. Okay, good. You can hear me. All right, sorry. Going back into it. Sorry, that was weird. I've never had that happen before where it says reconnecting. But anyway, so going back to it. What was I saying? I was talking about this, everything going on with the market. Oh man, that made me lose my train of thought. Oh yeah. Talking about my journey as Pokemon. Kind of just skipped ahead. Okay, good. That's good at least. Yeah, no. So we're talking about my Pokemon journey. I've always been into Pokemon regardless. So I've always had like kind of my foot in the door when it comes to Pokemon, right? I never really gave up the hobby as far as it goes. I just stopped like collecting it. And so basically, you know, when it comes to me as an investor, I had always, you know, been very interested in ways to make money, right? So Pokemon was one of those things that, you know, when everything crashed, I said, okay, I'm going to start getting unemployment checks. I want to start making this an opportunity to make money off the money that they're giving me and not just blow it, right? Because I still live with my parents. Yes, I pay for my car expense. Yes, I pay for my phone bill. Yes, I pay for my car insurance. I pay for gas. I spend a little bit of money on rent for my parents. Thankfully, not a ton. So I'm definitely blessed with that. So I still have expenses, but I don't have as many expenses as most people would have when it comes to spending, you know, money. So I had enough money left over because they were giving me so much money that I was like, okay, what am I going to do with all this unemployment money, right? So I did my research and I said, what do I want to invest in, right? So I had noticed that the collectibles market specifically had started popping off. And I actually learned about this from one of my buddies who was already been collecting for a while. And he was like, you know, there's this really cool set called Hidden Fates. I checked out the set. I thought this was really cool. And so basically what I started doing is I started opening up, I started going online on Craigslist and I started up buying old collections. Literally anything and everything I could find, anything and everything that I thought was worth it and a good deal at the time. I kind of based my value off of what I saw on TCG Player, based on eBay, and kind of just getting a grasp on what the market was as I started to really kind of get back into the hobby. And that's kind of how it started off was, okay, let's buy these Pokemon cards, right? So that's how it started off for me when it came to getting the product. When I realized that wanting to sell these cards on specifically eBay, there was going to be a 10% transaction fee, I said to myself, this is crazy. On top of the 2.9% plus 30 cents transaction fee I get on PayPal. So it was one of these things where it just wasn't worth it for me. I didn't see it as being something that was gonna, you know, be worth my time having to go through, post all these cards, get reputable, yada, 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 right? And so I decided to create my own business. And on top of that, I was able to be good on you. Like that kind of won me over. And I was lucky enough to get that contract. So I kind of got lucky in that aspect, right? And not to mention the fact of the matter, when I got in right before Darkness Ablaze had come out, right? So if you think about that, that was kind of over the summer, and things have now changed so drastically when it comes to the overall supply. Like I remember there was product on the website, like literally like Roaring Skies blisters, Primal Clash blisters that I was selling for below MSRP, like for $3.20 when I first started my website, like dirt cheap, right? And they were just sitting there. And they were just sitting on the website too for my distributors page, right? And now Crimson Invasion boxes are selling at $150 on my distributor page. Like that's insane, dude. Like it's insane. Yeah, Glugs was literally the freaking hero for my business. Straight up when I first started off and I didn't really have a big following, he was like, Roaring Skies, Omega Lol, it's going to be the next big thing. And so I kid you not, everyone started just hopping on the train and buying Roaring Skies, and I thought that was crazy. But anyway, so going back into it, shout out to Glugs for that. But anyway, so about that, I just got lucky at the right time, you know? And so when it comes down to it, the point I'm trying to make with all this is I want to give you kind of guys like, hey, what's up, LX? It's been a while. I kind of want to give everyone just kind of a backstory to how I started, you know? And kind of like where my passion lies. You know, obviously I'm here to make money, but also I'm a huge fan of Pokemon myself, right? And this is one of these things where, you know, for those people who want to do what I do, like I said before, you got to look at the things that I mentioned at the very beginning of the stream. What state you live in, how much money do you have, and how much is your startup cost, as well as the fact of the matter that is this long term, is this short term. So when it comes to short term, and this is another thing I will answer, I suggest doing eBay and TCG Player specifically. Product is going to be hard to come by, and it'll be easier for you to flip cards if you're going to go short term. If you're going to go long term, then you would build your own website. It just makes the most sense. You know what I mean? Because if you're building your own, and here's the deal, you can still get a distributor's license. It's just going to be a lot harder because you're going to have to be a lot more reputable, and you're going to have to build an eBay page for you to be able to get that licensing contract with them that they're going to want, right? So it's one of these things where really short term, it's kind of hard unless you're trying to just flip, and flipping on eBay and TCG Player is kind of the fastest way to do it. And you can still flip product, but as far as it goes, long term, it's way better to build a website because you're going to save so much in transaction fees when it comes down to it long term. But yeah, no, it's hard because right now, you know, I don't want to ever discourage people from hopping in because I got lucky and I'm blessed and things have been going great. Sure, I can tell you that things have slowed down in the past, you know, couple of weeks because as soon as I got all my battle styles allocations given to me, I sold out of most of them. I still have a little bit of product, and it's kind of just me sitting on my hands until I find something else to sell. But through that time, I make enough money to where, because of how hot the market is right now, I don't have to do anything for 2 months as far as it goes sales because of how much I'm generating in net. Yeah, I heard about that, Bob. I literally was, it's funny you say that. I got a message from one of my buddies saying that they just got put up on the site. So, yeah, the Ultra Premium Shining Fates boxes, I'm surprised they last as long as they did, but this is where we are in the market. Like, this is the point that I'm trying to make here is like, I'm sitting on my hands, right? And I got lucky. I got in. I built a relationship. And it's one of these things where when you have distributors too, you have to build that relationship with them for them to want to be able to make you sales. There's one of my distributors who I actually got like back in January, right? I still haven't bought a single thing from them. I've put in at least over $100,000 in product orders, haven't gotten a single thing because I came in late, and they are always going to give their allocations to the people that have been with them the longest. And so when it comes down to it, if I don't get my, you know, allocation from Magazine Exchange, who I've been with since, I want to say back in October, November, December, January, February, March, been almost half a year now. It's one of these things where there's not really else I can go. So it's one of these things where I don't know where else to get product other than having to go get them from other online retailers, or having to go get them in store, or having to go buy up old Pokemon card collections and selling them. It's one of these things where when you're an online retailer and you can't get product from your distributor, and you have literally a distributing contract that gives you a certain amount of allocation, and it sells out like that, and it's not even big because there's such a few amount that's going to be given to you because of how many other online retailers there are. It's one of these things that is hard, man. It's great that you're making sales. The Discord has got your back. And honestly, Bob, that's another thing as well that I'll mention. Shout out to literally the TCG Deals Discord. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't the support of that community. The biggest thing, and this is one thing I will say, if you still want to try and make it, or when you do decide to make it after all this has kind of died down, marketing is key. It's huge. You got to get exposure. You got to make yourself different than the rest. You know, I saw an opportunity in the TCG Deals Discord. A lot of the people in there are really cool people. A lot of them I would consider friends. And then I've literally played like Jackbox games with them, drawing games with them. I've hung out with them. I've talked with them about Pokemon in depth. Like, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for the people in the TCG Discord deals. And a lot of you guys that are here know me because of the TCG Discord deals. And that is a connection that I have made that has helped me grow my business. It's one of these things where I'm able to gauge an audience of people that want deals, and I'm like, what do you want this product for? And they're like, I want it for this much. I'm like, could you do this much? And they're like, yes. I put it on my site, I make sales. It's one of these things where it's huge. Being able to, you know, have an audience of people that you can kind of have these conversations with, and they'll help you grow your business, and then they on the other end are going to be happy because they're able to get Pokemon product at a good deal. It's like a really good give and take, and for me it's awesome because I myself am a collector, and so it's genuine, you know. It's not one of these things where it's like, so what's your favorite Pokemon card from the Crimson Invasion set? And I'm like, let me look up the Crimson Invasion set, and I don't know. It's like, first off, Crimson Invasion's garbage. Sorry to shout it out. But anyway, but my point is when I have these conversations with people and when I give my opinions and I give my takes and I have people ask me questions, I'm always going to be honest with it because I love Pokemon. I love it. Like when Diamond and Pearl came out, I had so many people PM me being like, Diamond and Pearl came out, Diamond and Pearl Remix came out. Because people know how huge of a fan I am of Platinum and the Diamond and Pearl era, level X's, and the remakes. And so it's one of these things for me where it's like, being a part of that Pokemon community and having the people in the Discord who have always had my back, as Bob says, I've been blessed and I can't thank everyone enough for it. It's been huge for me. And so it's one of these things where right now in the market, you're going to have to get that exposure because everyone's selling Pokemon. And not to mention the fact of the matter that if you're lucky enough to get the product is kind of the biggest thing right now, because I myself am having to turn other ways to find product because literally I'm getting friends. I'm like, let me know if you find product. Let me know if you find product. And I'm buying it like MSRP because at this point it's so hard. I can get it below MSRP if my distributors ever have stuff, but if they do, it's in very small quantities. And so for that reason, right now is a terrible time to start. And I hate to say that because I don't want to discourage people, but I'm telling you, once the printing runs start to expand because COVID regulations start going away and you start to see that there's going to be more Pokemon being printed out there because they're not just printing in small companies or small areas like North Carolina, that's going to be an opportunity. There's always going to be an opportunity to sell Pokemon. Now, as someone who has only been selling Pokemon cards during COVID, I can't tell you what it'll look like as far as it goes, because obviously we're in such a demand. I can't tell you that, you know, as soon as all these print runs start to happen and we're going to start to see just more Pokemon getting dumped to the market, that you're going to be able to make as much money. It's going to be, you know, as profitable. You're going to have as large of margins, because think about it. Whenever a new Pokemon set comes out, typically before it's released, it's usually going for, let's say, like Battle Styles, right? It's usually going for around $85, $90, $95 when it's first dropped, right? Sometimes $100, but free shipping. As far as it goes now, Battle Styles, I almost sold out of all of my allocation at $150, which is unheard of. And so it's one of these things where I can't tell you if once they start doing print runs, it's going to stay like that. I don't think it is. I think it'll subside. It'll possibly go down to 120, 110, maybe go all the way down. But here's the deal. One thing I do know is if the supply side is there and the demand side is not, distributors will lower their prices, because distributors also increase prices because in a market, distributors still have to make money. If they can charge more, they will charge more to make money, right? And so that's kind of where it is right now, where with distributors, they're going to be lowering the prices when the demand starts to go down or when there's more product to be there. I remember when most people were saying Battle Styles was not worth pre-orders for $90. Yeah, man, that's what I did. I put Battle Styles pre-orders for $99 on my website with free shipping. I was gonna do 90 with free, I was gonna do 90, but since orders over $99 get free shipping, it didn't make any sense to me, and so that's what I did. And people ate that up real quick, because as soon as the market started to rise, it started to go up. And the thing is about when I do my pricing, I keep my pricing until a new wave comes out. So what I mean by that is, for those people who remember back in Vivid Voltage, when Vivid Voltage first came out and the market price was $140, I put it at $120. I kept it at $120. When I sold out, that was it. When I got new product, then I adjust it. But I'm never going to do it until I get new product and I'm selling out of my first initial wave. Kind of like with Shining Fates. When Shining Fates first came out, I did an initial pre-release wave. I sold everything at MSRP. It sold out in 30 minutes. When I get new Shining Fates product that I'm going to sell it above MSRP. One, because most of the product I'm buying right now is at MSRP. And then two, because the market value has gone up so much that I'm losing market opportunity to scalpers. And so it's one of these things where, you know, taking these things into consideration when it comes down to it, you know, if you want to try it, give it a go. I don't think it's going to be possible though when it comes to getting a distributor. So, if you're trying to do this long term, I definitely wait. I definitely be patient. If you want, you can, of course, get a company. You can get your tax license. You can still get your business verified if you're trying to do it, and you can create a website and not literally let the domain go live. And you can do this. You can prep for all of this. You can still do things right now to plan for the future. So don't be discouraged in that aspect, because in my personal opinion, I think this is going to all end within the next year or two. It feels like a way off, but in the grand scheme of things, if you really care about Pokemon the way I do, then I feel like you're going to be able to stick around for it. One thing that is going to actually play a huge factor, in my personal opinion, though, is the stimulus bill. This stimulus bill, for people who don't know, is going to be a $1.9 trillion stimulus bill. I'm not going to get into the politics of it, but basically what it's going to do is it's going to allow an additional $400 a week for unemployment for the next 5 months. What that means, I don't know what the economic ramifications mean for it, but what I can tell you is that if people get $400 a week, $400 a week for the next 5 months, you better damn well know this market is not slowing down, as people are going to be dumping more money for the next 5 months. And so it's one of these things where you got to take that into consideration as factors, because that's one of the reasons why we're in this thing to begin with, is because people are getting all these checks. And so that's one of the things that does scare me a lot, because, the stimulus checks are going to play a huge factor on the demand side. And who knows, maybe hypothetically speaking, we start to get these print runs to increase now, and literally within the next couple of months, which I doubt it. It sounds like it's more of a long-term, next year or two kind of thing, and people have these stimulus checks in the market, still it kind of levies itself out, because scalpers are no longer able to come in and buy everything up because there's so much product. But as far as it goes right now, kind of waiting for that, I think, is the most important thing now. And when I say waiting for it, I mean waiting for the product and waiting for things to die down when it comes to opportunity. Because as it stands right now, as someone who's been in it for over 6 months now, over half a year, it's hard to find product. And so hopping in right now with absolutely no credibility, you're not going to find a distributor that's going to want to pick you up. So if you are trying to get into the market right now, in my personal opinion, I think the best way to get in the market and sell is through Pokemon cards. Going through, buying up collections, going through, getting them graded. Obviously that takes time. If you don't want to do that, then just flipping the cards. I think that's one way you can do it. It's gotten harder to find deals. Like when it first came out, like I was buying level X's for what was like $5 a piece on average, basically.